policy was taken out by AICT in collaboration with Professor Ashok Shettar, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of KLE Tech University. This examination reforms policy, which is available on the website of AICTE, primarily speaking, informs about the Bloom's taxonomy levels of difficulty as to how a mix and match of these difficulty levels have to be incorporated into making a questionnaire. Number two, it also aligns the faculty members and teachers towards outcome-based education and how attainment of graduate attributes have to be achieved and how assessment of these have to be carried out based on the questionnaires. And quite obviously, NITR Bhopal would be taking you through this particular examination reforms, and they would be telling you the gaps existing and how to bridge the gaps for the purposes of attainment of the final outcomes, that is the learning outcomes.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Joshua, sir. A very warm welcome. We have Professor Joshua Ernest from NITR Bhopal. We have Professor B.L. Gupta from NITR Bhopal. And we are also connected with our Honorable Chairman, sir, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, sir. Honorable Chairman, sir, a very good morning to you, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
I've got some other work going on parallelly.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Sir, with your permission, we can go ahead, sir.
Yeah, my permission is not required. You go ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to be having our Honorable Chairman also attending this. So this tells us how important this activity is in making our faculty members aware, knowledgeable, and competent on every aspect which covers education system as a whole. Examination reforms is so very beautifully elaborated in the policy document existing on the website, and it culminates into certain set of question banks. The whole idea and genesis behind this activity, what we are doing today, happens to be twofold. Number one, making faculty members aware of the best practices on the examination reforms to include the latest technology-driven examination reforms, primarily because of the system change which has happened, that is, we are now in an online mode. How to use ICT, how to best use technology into each and every aspect, that is one. And number two, we also take this opportunity to tell each one of you that this is a certified 3 days course, after which each one of you, after successful submission of certificates, successful submission of you is expected to generate multiple choice questions, which will then be scrutinized by the panelist tomorrow, that is on the third day, and they will be guiding you the course correction towards which is the right question, as to how to frame a question, how to define difficulty, how to give a correct options, and then how to frame the right questions as to which all words not to be used. I will leave these intricacies to Professor Joshua sir and Professor B.L. Gupta sir. But I would request each one of you to remain connected. I would request each one of you to benefit from these initiatives of AICT. Professor Joshua sir, the stage is all yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Can you hear me?
Very clear, sir. Very clear.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Earlier, there was a problem with the mic, so I took the headphone. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So can I start? I think if I get the share privilege, I can start, I think.
Sir, you are already, sir.
No, I have to get the share privilege. Share. I have to share my slides. It has to come.
1 second, sir. 1 second, sir. Saurabh, if you are listening, please give Professor Joshua Ernest immediately the sharing rights.
Thank you. I think it has come.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So good morning to all of you. It's my privilege again to be with all of you. Yesterday we had a good session. We'll have a short wrap up so that we know where you are. So if some of you have missed it, let me start sharing. Yes. Can you see my slides?
Sir, it's come very visible, sir.
It's
You
come.
can go ahead.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Good morning to all of you once more. Today our session would be formulating cognitive domain outcomes at the RBT. When I say RBT, it's the revised Bloom's taxonomy levels and related test items. The outcome of this session, as this is an outcome-based curriculum, outcome-based education, the outcome of this session is to distinguish different levels of cognitive domain outcomes to formulate right level of test items. When I say test items, because it is questions, to match the different types of learning outcomes, right? So this is the session outcome of this during this time. Yeah. A wrap up of yesterday's discussions. A reminder of yesterday's discussions, right? We had seen that the secret of designing good test items and questions, that is, unless you frame unambiguous and specific COs and the associated practical outcomes or PROs and the unit outcomes related to the cognitive domain outcomes and the affective domain outcomes, starting with a single action verb, your test item may not be that good. Okay, so this is the secret of designing good test items that we have seen yesterday. So hope you have chosen your course. I had told you that you have to choose a course and identified its competency and framed the industry-oriented COs or course outcomes, right? Because on the basis of this, you will have to submit three tasks. One task is regarding 10 multiple choice items in the format of which has already been sent to you, and one semester end question paper, okay, and one rubric. So these are the three tasks that you will be submitting by 10th, because we are giving you one more day extra so that you can do a good job and submit it. And at least 80% of your tasks should be rightly and correctly written for you to get the certificate, right? So that is the condition for certification. Fine. Okay. Therefore, please be in the class. Listen to all the discussions that that is taking place. As I told you yesterday, you will not get most of the things on the internet, because these are based on the researches and projects and experiments that Nitar Bhopal has done over the past 40 years in the area of outcome-based curriculum. Therefore, you may get in bits and pieces, but listening to this sessions will help you to do it in a better way. So we had seen that for a theory of machines, one of the competencies is evaluate the performance of various types of mechanical drives and machines. I hope you have chosen your course and identified the competency for that course, right? That is essential. Because if your competency is not right, the questions or the test items that you will be preparing will also not be that right. Now, I had told you that based on the competency, you have to check the correctness of the following COs, and we had done this exercise yesterday. So for the above competency, we had identified 6 COs, right? And similarly, you will have to identify the course outcomes of the course which you have chosen for this program, on the basis of which you will prepare the questions. This exercise you must have done yesterday, I'm sure. So yesterday we had seen the revised Bloom's taxonomy of the cognitive domain. We had seen remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and other elements, right? So this much we have seen yesterday. Now we'll go ahead based on this. Yesterday I had somebody asked a question, what was the original Bloom's taxonomy and why the revised Bloom's taxonomy? Well, when Benjamin Bloom in fact propounded this theory, Benjamin Bloom and his team, I'll put it, where Robert Krathwohl was also there, and there was a team of members who did all the research and propounded this type of education system. Therefore, at that time, it was knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. But in 2001, the same group, after a lot of researches, they came to the conclusion that evaluate takes plus and later on it takes and create comes after that. Therefore, there was a switch in this, and even the terms that were used became as verbs rather than nouns. So you have now remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create, based on which we had the discussions over yesterday, right? So this is the basis on which we are going ahead. Now, let us see some examples and the type of questions that you will have to prepare, both for the multiple choice item as well as in the short answer questions, which generally you have in the semester and examinations, right? Okay. There is a lot of confusion of what is an apply level outcome and how the questions can be written in the apply level outcome. I mean, all the higher level outcome. I would talk it as, I will we call it as the HOTS, higher order thinking skills. So apply, analyze, evaluate, and create, they come under the category of higher order thinking skills. And the industry is interested only and only in that, because only when the graduates perform at the higher order thinking skills can something be produced in the industry. The other things, knowledge and remember and understand, is for building up the higher order thinking skills. So let us see one example. Hope are you able to listen and see also? Maybe one of you can put in the chat box.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Use Ohm's law to solve electric circuit problems in the given situations. This is an apply level outcome. The given is very, very important whenever you write outcomes situations, and you have to give a situation, then only it becomes a outcome. Okay. Now, what would be the question for this? For this outcome, you can have n number of questions. That's what. Therefore, questions will not get repeated, whether it is in the test or whether in the final exam. So what I'm giving you a question which will match this apply level. A room requires a 20-watt wall lamp, 60-watt ceiling fan, and a 5-watt LED lamp. Sketch the electrical circuit for wiring these components in the room. I have taken Ohm's law because right from 10th standard, everybody knows that. So if there is anybody who's not from electrical also, they know Ohm's law. E is equal to IR, they say. That means Indian Railways, E is the voltage, I is the current, R is the resistance. This all of us have learned right from our school days. Therefore, I've taken the simple example. Even our English teachers, or if there are pharmacy teachers, they also will understand. Therefore, I've taken the simplest example of an apply level outcome. So you see what is the difference? Here, it is a generic statement asking the student to that in any given situation, he will have to use Ohm's law. So he's in the final exam, he's given a question like this. So why I'm telling this is a test item and not a question, because there is no question mark. You are using the action verb sketch. And now if you will, somebody may ask, sir, you have used the word sketch. Sketch is used in remember level. It is not so. When you give a situation and you use an action verb in such a way that he has to think properly, apply certain principles, then he's in the apply level. Okay, I think you're with me. The next one, another example I'm taking in apply level outcome. Determine the relevant quantity of Portland cement for the specified requirements. You see, whenever you write any outcome, the specified or the given has to be written, because that you are telling the student that that any situation he has to use up, any such situations he has to use Ohm's law, or any other situation for the civil engineering graduate, specified requirements will be there. In that, how will he use Portland cement, right? So what could the question for this be? A concrete pillar of 10-meter height and 8 centimeters square has to be cast as a 2 BHK single-story house. It should be for, not as. Calculate the amount of cement required. Now, if you look at this term, calculate, this can be used even in the understand level. When it is a simple, if for example, in Ohm's law, if the R is given, if the value of R and I is given, then he can find out the voltage. If it is simple application of any formula, then it is at the understand level. Let me tell you. Simple application of the formula and you say calculate, then it is at the understand level. It is not in the apply level. In order to be at the apply level, you have to give a situation, real life situation or near to real life situation. Then only it becomes at the apply level. All of you, please remember again and again, Professor B.L. Gupta will also tell that we have, in order to make our students and graduates employable, we have to give them real and near to real life situations during the for every question that we try to make in apply level and above. Now let us see another example. Find the required amount of petrol in the given situations. So whatever be the situation, the student will have to, a mechanical engineering student will have to find the amount of petrol required. So I'll give an example would be, determine the amount of petrol required for a 100 cc bike to run for 10 minutes. You got the point? How the outcome has been converted into a question at the apply level. So you have to think for your courses how you can write or formulate or frame outcomes at the apply level and how you can frame questions at the apply level. So I think let's go ahead. Okay. Okay, that was now some examples at the analyze level. Interpret the behavior. Now you don't look at 3 because the sequencing became a little bit different. You look at the 1. Some examples are at the analyze level. We have seen now the apply level. Analyze level is at a higher level, right? Interpret the behavior of steel structures for the given conditions. This is a analyze level outcome. And what could the question be? Interpret the changes in loads of each member of the given steel structure shown in the diagram due to the wind pressure created at 100 kilometers per hour. So you see how an analyze level outcome is used to create or formulate a question in the real situation. So this is the type the student will get when he reaches the industry. He will be given real or near to real life problems and how the principles that you teach in the theory is to be applied in the real situation. Okay. We go to the another example of analyze level. Determine the quantity of blended petrol for the specified types of engines. Now, the outcome comes at the analyze level the way you frame it in that situation, right? So the word determine is not what the word determine is not what makes it at analyze level. The whole sentence, the structure of the whole sentence determines at what level that it is at the analysis level, right? So what is the question that can come for this? Determine the amount of petrol required for a 100 cc petrol bike to run for 10 minutes. You will say that this question was there also. But now I am asking the student to make suitable assumptions. If he has to make suitable assumptions, that means he has to analyze in his brain what have to assume, right? In the earlier thing, he will just put some calculation and come out with the amount of petrol. Now, if it is now he must say that it is an unblended. I can even say that determine the amount of petrol required, blended petrol, I'll put it, right? Maybe I can change that a little bit. Where am I? Yeah. Amount of blended. In fact, I had written blended. It was not saved. Okay, fine. I think I'm saved that. Okay. Okay. Okay, friends. So to determine the amount of blended petrol required for the 100 cc motorbike to run for 10 minutes, make suitable assumptions. So in the earlier case, it was a simple petrol, right? In this case, what was it? Determine the amount of petrol required. Just, it was a more simple. I made it a little bit complicated by asking him the amount of blended petrol required, and he has to make certain assumptions. So we are making him analyze the situation and come out with a solution, right? Then it is at the analyze level. I hope you are with me to see how an outcome is converted to a question. That is the beauty of, that is the way we have to learn, right? Now, compare the quality of the given dissertations. Now, that was the outcome, okay? And the given is very, very important. All these, or the specified or given. That's why I'm putting the word. Okay, just a minute. I have to underline that, right? Let's take this over here. So, just a minute. Okay, I think we are there now. So this is how it happens. Compare the quality of the given MTech dissertations in terms of the new knowledge created and the number of papers published in reputed journals. So there is a criteria that is given, and based on that, he has to compare the quality. Okay. So these are some examples in the analyze level. Then we come at the evaluate level, right? In the evaluate level, evaluate the given projects. Okay. See. Evaluate the given projects. So what is the question? Discriminate the work of 4 project reports on the basis of selection of problem, methodology for finding the solutions, and recommendations. Then what is the student? What you have to do? You have to pass judgment whether the project reports are okay or fully okay or partially okay or not agreeable. Next item is justify the economic viability of the given. It should be. See, the is very, very important when you write outcomes. This is very important, right? This is also very important. Fine. Now, if you look at this, evaluate the given report of the outcome is evaluate the given accident reports. The question will be evaluate the given report of a major electrical fire that took place in the laboratory last week. That means in this you will be giving a situation or maybe a small case study of 2 or 3 sentences and tell the student what is his take on that, something like that. So these are the ways you can, and I'm not going to design, because design, all of you know that. You will say design a circuit, design a beam, or design a small gear. So all that as at the create level. So I'm not, you are much familiar with that. You already give questions according to that. So let us now go and see what you have to do for your assignment. Okay. First of all, you have to write down the competency, and for each competency, you will have to write down the COs that we have seen, and for each CO, you will have to write the practical outcomes. And this is what we have seen yesterday. Now, for the practical outcomes also, there is a taxonomy which normally engineers use. That's called the Dewey's taxonomy of the psychomotor domain. Now, what is Dewey? R.H. Dewey is an Indian educationist now living in Germany. He and his team propounded this taxonomy. There are many other taxonomies. Anita Harrow's taxonomy is there, and other taxonomies are there, but this is more closest to the engineering education system. Hence, Nita Bhopal and many other NITAs have been propounding, and many other institutions have been following this. Therefore, we are using Dewey's taxonomy. And that's the simplest in the engineering situation. So what is just like you had up to create level, Dewey's taxonomy has 5 levels. The first one is imitation. In the imitation level, the first stage is learning practical skill. Imitation includes repeating and copying an act and demonstrated or explained, and it includes trial and error until an appropriate response is achieved. Example is operate the equipment, observing the expert working on it. So this is the first step by which a student can learn how to do a practical work. He imitates the expert performing in the lab, or he imitates the faculty who performs it. Maybe. Now, the next step is manipulation. In the manipulation stage, what happens? Without the instructor, the student is able to do a job in the laboratory, in the field, or in the workshop. For example, operate the equipment, referring to the operational manuals. Now, in the industry, the minimum that is required for a graduate to do is to do this. Use an equipment. It can be operate, it can be use, it can be manipulate. Okay. Use the equipment referring to the operational manual or operate, right? So minimum this much is required for every graduate. That is what the industry wants. Okay. So we are generally doing this. So our lab manuals should be so designed that the student should be able to do it on his own, on her own, the practicals. Now, the next step, that means if the student is at the manipulation level, that means he has crossed the imitation level. That's the meaning. Now, if the student is at the precision level, that means he has crossed the manipulation, or he has stepped over, I would say acquired the manipulation and imitation level skills. Okay. Now look at this precision level. At precision level, what is required? Proficiency is indicated by a well-coordinated, smooth, accurate performance requiring minimum energy. The award response is a complex and performed without hesitation. That's important. So produce the given job to the required specification. This is one example. Again, the industry requires graduates who can do at least up to precision level, especially diploma holders and undergraduates who reach the industry. So our practicals should be so designed that at least to some level of specification, the student is able to do the practicals. He is not only at the manipulation level, he should be at the precision level as well. The next step is articulation. In the articulation, what happens is more than a number of skill sets are worked in tandem, and it's an integrated performance of a number of skill sets. For example, produce variety of jobs on a lathe to the required specification in the specified time limit. Now the time limit has come over here, which is very important for the industry, because if you don't produce the jobs in time and in that much quantity, the industry will not be in profit. It will go into a loss. Therefore, they need people who will work at the articulation level. At the articulation level, maybe graduates may not require that much, but in certain cases, it may be required as well. But generally, up to precision level, we have to develop in the institute. Maybe at the articulation level can happen once the graduate reaches the industry. Okay. Next is naturalization level. At this level, what happens? It becomes part of his natural work. That means he's become such an expert that even without, I would say, giving much of attention, he can produce jobs with considerable ease. That's what it is. So produce jobs on the lathe by manipulating the lathe controls with dexterity, observing the materials are being removed and the sound produced during the, and listening at the sound produced during the machine. So these are the 5 levels for a practical skill to be, I would say, harnessed or to be developed. So I call it IMPAN, IMPAN, that is imitation, manipulation, precision, articulation, and naturalization. And for we engineers, we have to take, or at the institute level, we have to help the students to reach the precision level in the practicals. So this is what, and accordingly, we'll have to write down the practical outcomes. That's why this knowing this taxonomy is important. Okay. Now coming to this, so we have said, so accordingly, having the waste taxonomy is in mind, you have the CO. For that CO, there may be number of practicals. For CO2, it will be PRO3, PRO4, or PRO5. For CO3, it may be PRO6, like that it will go on. And for CO1 and for doing the practicals in the industry, what is the theory required? And that is what we call as the unit outcomes. The unit outcomes could be, we have seen yesterday also, select the type of drive required for the machine, evaluate the effect of friction for the given type of drive, Okay, determine the power transmission in the given. Everywhere we have seen that the given is important when you write the outcomes. Otherwise, the student should know that when he reaches the industry, he will be given a mechanism. When the student reaches the industry, he should know that he will be given some type of drive. He has to evaluate the effect. So these are the outcomes. Based on these outcomes, you will form the questions. So you must have realized by now that unless you write the outcomes correctly, your design of your questions will also not be in the proper format. So it is utmost important to write down the outcomes correctly before you frame the question paper or before you give questions to the students. Okay, now each of you, if you take calculate, if you take determine, if you take select, if you take evaluate, if you take determine, all these action verbs are observable, measurable. Okay, we have it, they have all the smart characteristics. That means it is measurable, specific, it is measurable, it is attainable, R is it is reasonably challenging, and T is it is time bound. So those 5 characteristics, the smart 5 characteristics of the action verbs is seen in all these. This is what you must have noted. Now, guidelines for, now we are coming to, based on all this, you will have to prepare the questions for MCQs as well as for short answer questions. So we'll have a relook at the guidelines to perform MCQs, and then we will discuss on the assignment, that the task that you have to do after this, right? Okay. The STEM should pose a definite problem by itself. That's number 1. The STEM should generally be positive. Negatively stated STEM should be used only rarely. Whenever negative is used, it should be emphasized by using capital or underlining. Double negatives should not be used in the STEM. The option none of the above and all of the above must not be used, because when you are computerizing it, the jumbling of the distractors take place, and therefore it will be difficult to administer. Then the 5th one is the use of words like what would you do, what do you consider must be avoided, because they are opinions. While in MCQs, they are questions for which there is only one right answer. The next one is the similarity of the terms and the clause in the STEM should be avoided. Right? The similarity of the clause in the STEM, there's a grammar mistake over there in the STEM. The similarity of the terms and the clause in the STEM in the key, it should be in the key should be avoided. STEM, sorry, and the key should be avoided. It's that. Okay. Ensure that the item is technically correct. When I say item, it is the test item, the MCQ. The next one is option should generally be similar in length. The tendency to make the key longer than the other option must be checked and avoided. There must be only one correct or clearly the best answer in each question. All distractors must be plausible and attractive. Then we have guidelines continued again. The option should be made grammatically consistent with the STEM. Okay. The numerical options should be written in an ascending or descending order. Use the phrases such as chief advantage, main feature. The use of phrases, should be with care. use of phrases such as chief advantage, main feature should be used with care. That's fine. So these are the guidelines for MCQs. Now, based on this, now we'll see one example of it so that it will become more clear. Let me go to that example. Now, I'll just take one example. Let me go to let me taste this task first. Yeah. Are you listening? Can you hear?
We are able to hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Joshua, sir, you can speak, sir.
Okay, thank you. Can you see the slide now? This Excel slide, is it clear?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now this is the task 1 that you have to do. It says, based on the discussions thus far, multiple choice items at apply, analyze, evaluate, create level has to be submitted by 10th. We are giving you one more day so that you can do a
Joshua,
good
sir,
job.
sorry to come inside, sir. I think you are sharing your desktop screen. That slide is not visible.
Okay. Let me try. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Share the application. Okay. Excel. Has it come now?
Yes, perfect, sir. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Please give me feedback if you're not able to see. Anybody can unmute and tell me. Okay. Now, based on the discussions thus far, the multiple choice items, I'm using items again, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create level has to be submitted on 10th, that is day after tomorrow, so that we are giving you one more day's time so that you can do a good job. Only a single action verb has to be used for any type of learning outcome. Okay. You are already writing questions or preparing items in the area of remember and understand level. Therefore, that has not been included. So what all you have to do? Your name, your institute, your state, whether it's a UG program or the diploma program, because accordingly, the type of questions will differ. Because we have said that for a UG program, your items or your test items should help to the student to solve complex engineering problems as per Washington Accord, right? So that has to be taken care. That's why we are asking you to mention in which diploma, for which diploma program or which program you are preparing the questions. Name of the course is required, the competency of that course is required, and the COs. So I hope you have chosen your course, identified the competency, and identified the COs. Now, when you're coming to the multiple choice question, you have to write down the stem over here and the options A, B, C, D has to be given. And you'll have to also say from of these 5 or 6 COs, you may have 6 COs as well, to which CO your stem is applicable. Then that is what, and you will have to prepare only 10 multiple choice questions. Out of that, 3 are apply level, 2 analyze level, 2 evaluate level, and 2 create level, right? So they are very simple, only 2 each For the whole course, I'm asking you to do. And because this will be, once if you are able to do this correctly, then that means for the whole course, you will be able to prepare a number of questions, right? So any questions that you have regarding this? I have given you ample examples so that you will be able to prepare the questions, whether it is short answer or multiple choice. You have to give a situation. Let me again and again repeat it. Otherwise, it is not an application level question. This is what I have to again repeatedly say. You have to give a situation. Then only apply, analyze, evaluate, and create level questions become that. I will give you an example. Otherwise, you will write, give a numerical and say that is an apply level. No, a numerical can, generally most numericals, what you do is you give the numerical and ask the student to apply the formula. When you do that, just that, it is at the understand level. But you may call an understand level a apply level, but that is not right. But if you give a situation, as I gave in Ohm's law, then it is at the apply level. At this juncture, I just want to tell you a small, I want to ask a small question to all of you, which Abraham Lincoln asked. Abraham Lincoln asked a question: if I call a horse's tail a leg, how many legs does the horse have? मैं हिंदी में बोलूं, अगर घोड़े के पूंछ को मैं उसको उसका एक पैर उसको मैं मानता हूं, तो उसके कितने पैर हो सकते है उस घोड़े को? I'm just trying to, my Hindi is not that good, but that I'm telling, if I call a horse's tail a leg, how many legs does the horse have? You can put in the chat box. Let me see your answers. It is 4, 5. Yes. 5, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5. Okay. So we have 5s and 4s, but the correct answer is 5. Abraham Lincoln said, I may call the tail a leg or anything, but that leg remains a leg and tail remains a tail. So similarly, you may call a apply level question by giving him a formula based numerical, but it does not become an apply level question. An apply level question will be only when you give a situation. An apply level question at apply and above will be considered as apply level higher order only if you give a situation. Okay, so I think the task is very clear. Please go ahead and do the task. That's all I have to say. Maybe I'll try to give you another example. Let me see for another example. Okay. Can you see this? The one which I have presented now? When can we have?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You can see this, the examples I've shown. Okay. Now, let us consider, hope you can read this. The first one, it says for a common source FET, Ri is equal to 1.1 kilowatts. RQ is RS is so and so and so on. And you may call this as a apply level question, but it is not an apply level question because it is straight formula and therefore it comes only at understand level. Okay. Now, what is happening here? A low pass filter with a cutoff filter is over here. Interpret the performance of this type of filter. Now, I would say you can make it a little more a low pass filter in which device? You have to put like that. This is not mine. I've taken from somebody who had submitted, just to tell you how to analyze or interpret these, right? So in this, what is happening is, if he had given a more, I would say this will still go into the, though here you have used the word interpret the performance of the filter, it is somewhere between border of understand and apply. Because if you had given a situation in which device this low pass filter is, then it would have been in the apply level. So anyway, because in certain cases there may be small overlaps, but it cannot be at the understand level and the analyze level. It can never be. Small overlaps between the two may happen. Now look at this. The transistor used here determined the collector and the collector current. I would say this is not an apply level question because, sorry, this is I would say this is at the, this should be at the apply level. This is an apply level question because he has to think a little bit. This is at the apply level. This is correct, okay? So like that it goes on. Now, this one, examine the forward current of a G diode at the room temperature with a forward voltage of 100 millivolts with this. If you had given a situation in which device this is being used, it would be more useful to the student. Why we are telling the situation, why I'm telling the situation has to be highlighted. The situation has to be highlighted so that the student gets a feel of the industry. And therefore, when he reaches the industry, it is not a new thing for the student. Therefore, situations are required where this bypass filters are used, which device it is used. If you can tell that also, then only it becomes an analyze level. Otherwise, it is at understand level. That's what I want to say. This is at the understand level. Or I would say, so understand level, right? So did you get the, I hope you have understood. You have to give the situation for it to be there, right? So yeah, so we have a little bit more time. We go to the next presentation, right? Okay, we'll go to the next presentation. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now coming to short answer questions. Now, how will you contain the, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the short answer question, it should contain only one central idea which can be answered in 1 to 10 sentences. This is one guideline for writing short answer questions. These require students to supply definition of a short explanation of concepts, principles, procedures, applications, and relationships. Okay. The designed answer is definite and specific. To avoid ambiguity, define the scope of the answers. The question should start with verbs such as describe, explain, find, differentiate in place of what, why, when, where, and how. That means in OBE, you should avoid the 5 W's and H for questions. Because if I ask what is an induction motor, it can have multiple answers from multiple students, and therefore assessment of that answer will be difficult for the teachers as for the examiners. But if I say describe the various components of the induction motor, it is very clear to the student. If I say explain the working of the induction motor, it is also very clear to the student. Therefore, avoid the 5 W's and H in the questions in your question paper. Fine. Structured and short answer questions is framed such that the students' response are restricted. That means they are restricted. You can write answer in 50 words or after answer in 3 sentences. Though you are restricting the answer of the question so that accordingly the number of marks also you are awarding. Relatively more freedom of response with respect, WRTs with respect to the completion type of questions can also be given. Specific in nature and demands a precise answer. That is what a structured or short answer question is all about. Objectivity is there to a greater extent. Is easiest to construct because the answer required is very, very specific. Since it is a supply type of question, probability of guessing by the student is eliminated. And you are also in short answer questions or long answer questions, you are helping the student to communicate also properly. Examples of short answer question. In air brake system, air pressure in the brake is dash dash and that in the gate 5 is that dash dash dash. Okay. Sketch the cross section of a salient pole alternator with labels of at least 4 main parts. Calculate the area of the cycle velodrome with a diameter of 35 meters. Meters. Explain in about 50 words the working principle of an optical fiber used in telecommunication systems. Now, strengths of the short answer question. It is arranged in increasing order of RBT levels. When I say RBT, I use the word RBT. Many universities use Bloom's taxonomy. I use the word revised Bloom's taxonomy because it is very clear to the students, right? It relates with the sequence of learning outcomes. Okay. It can be used to test the cluster of outcomes as well. And precise marking scheme is also possible. Objectivity in the marking is possible. So when you some guidelines are there. Avoid indefinite and over-mutilated statements. Avoid trivial details. Use keywords and phrases. Avoid grammatical clues to the correct answer. Test should not attract 2 correct answers. Formulate the test item so that the required answer is specific, brief, and as expected by you. When you come to long answer questions, maybe of 5 marks, 6 marks, they are unrestricted response questions. They are long answer question or unrestricted response questions. Example, write an essay on the development of technical education in India since 1950. This is one type. In restricted response, write in not more than 50 words the use of cognitive domain outcomes in framing different types of test items. Another example of restricted response is state the effect of increase in the carbon percentage in the steel in the following properties. Tensile strength, 1 mark. Hardness, 1 mark. Ductility, 1 mark. Impact strength, 1 mark. It goes on like that. In the essay type questions, a measure of the complex learning outcome can be introduced. Emphasis is given to integration and application of the thinking and problem solving skills. Okay. It helps in improving the writing and communication skills as well, which is very much required for the industry. These questions are more useful for testing HOTS or higher order thinking skills, which can't be tested by other types of questions. We have seen some merits, then some more are there. It can measure the complex learning outcomes, but not always. Integration, application of thinking, problem solving skills are there. It is easy to construct, that's which we all know as teachers. Good for measuring the writing ability, but there are some limitations as well. Unreliability or subjectivity of scoring is a matter. Less content coverage. I would rather put it less content coverage of the entire course. Let me put it like that. Tedious and difficult to score. More amount of time is required for scoring. It encourages bluffing by the students. All of you know that. If it's a long answer question, the students will take answer sheets after answer sheets and go on writing. And we as teachers will have to pour through the various paragraphs or read through the various paragraphs which they have written, in which some of them may not be really be relevant. Scores distribution controlled largely by the examiner. That is one. That means the reliability is less. Suggestions for improving long answer questions is the test items to be clear and ambiguous. Indicate word limit for each question. That could be one. So you can say for long answer question, how many words? Maybe 200 words, 150 words. It depends upon you how much you want them to write to, right? Or maybe 250 words, depending upon the marks that you want to award and the time that is required to write that much. Both are important. Avoid the use of optional question. That's what is especially when we come to long answer questions. Use action verbs to frame the test items like design, compose, justify, predict, and so on. So if in long answer questions also, you need to use action verbs. Okay. Now we come to so much we have seen about cognitive domain and psychomotor domain. And similarly, we have the affective domain or the domain related to the attitudes and the social skills. This is one of the weakest areas in engineering education, which is hardly tested. And for this, how can we do that? What are the ways we can look at it? What are the types? What is the taxonomy? Just like we had taxonomy for the psychomotor domain and the cognitive domain, we have the taxonomy for the Krathwohl's domain as well. Just a minute. Yeah. Krathwohl was one of the team members of Benjamin Bloom, and it was together they propounded this taxonomy. why we call it a taxonomy and not a category? Because there is a definite hierarchy that you must have seen. That's the reason why we use the word taxonomy for all these different steps rather than a category. So the very first attitude for developing or assessing the attitudes, or for developing the attitudes, the very first step would be that the student or the individual would be at the receiving stage. That means he is willing to receive, and his selective attention is there, passively attending to the certain stimuli. So receiving can be, it can be a visual reception, it can be an audible reception. In this case, you are listening to me as well as seeing me as well, okay, or seeing the slides as well. So you are now receiving both types of stimuli, audible stimuli as well as visual stimulus. So observe the performance of the expert with interest. With interest is the thing which really makes it at the affective domain affective domain item. Okay, observe the performance of the expert with interest. If he's looking at with interest or observing with interest, we say that the student is at the receiving level. Next one is responding level. After receiving, if he is responding to that sort of a stimuli, then that we say that the student has reached the responding level. Willingness to respond complies to the given expectation by reacting to the stimuli or phenomena. Perform the job correctly and joyfully. And joyfully is what makes it at the affective domain level. Perform correctly is at the practical or psychomotor domain level, and joyfully is at the affective domain level. So this example gives you is an example which includes both the psychomotor domain as well as the affective domain. So just to make you aware that most of the affective domain outcomes can be developed, or they are more suitable at in the laboratory, workshop, or field situation. And there may be, and there are other social activities or social outcomes which can be developed in the classroom as well. Okay, and how can you develop that? Through role playing and other places. While in the laboratory, it is actually they are doing that. In role play, you are simulating a situation, but in the laboratory, on the field, you can actually develop the affective domain outcomes. So when he is doing that job, he is at the responding level. When he is looking at the job, observing that job, he is at the receiving level. Now, what is the next level? That means if he is responding, that means he has received also. That's why he is responding. The next is valuing. Displaying behavior consistent with a single belief or attitude with situations where she is not forced to comply or obey. Acceptance or preference to a value. For example, always punctual in the classroom and laboratory and other events. See, in the classroom and laboratory, he is forced to do it. Otherwise, he may lose his attendance, right? Or he may be reprimanded for not being punctual. Therefore, in the responding stage, he may be, because forcefully he is being required to do that. But if he is punctual at all other events, that means he has valued that outcome and he is doing it in other places. He is punctual not only in the class and laboratory, but for other meetings, or for meeting, or when he's asked to come to for interviews and things like that. Then we say he has valued that, and he's at the valuing level. I hope you are with me. Right. Next we see, and where can this be developed? This valuing level can also be developed in the student in the laboratory, because laboratory is a good place because he has to observe safety precautions, he has to work as a leader, he has to work as a team member. So there are such social values which are required and which the industry wants, right? So if we are able to assess them, or when we assess them, then only student will I would say try to develop it in the institution. So how can you assess them, that we will see. But what is the okay, and we'll come to that. How can you develop affective domain outcomes? Let us see the various steps or various levels. Next level is organization, committed to a set of values as displayed by the behavior. Example: always punctual and sincere, not only in laboratory, but also in classroom and other events. What is the difference between valuing and organization? In valuing, it is a single belief. But in organization, is a set of values, or set of beliefs, or set of attitudes. Like, he's not only he's not only punctual, but he's joyful as well. And that is two sets of values. There could be he's punctual, joyful, and he follows safety precautions. So when you have a set of values and he's doing it at not only in the laboratory, on the classroom, but in other places, that means he has reached the organization. Okay. Next is characterization. That means he is consistent with values that are internalized by the person as it becomes part of his character. Internalization is the key word over here, right? So if that person practices good housekeeping, not only in the laboratory, but everywhere he works or whenever he works, that means he has reached the characterization stage. What did we learn in the Dewey's taxonomy or psychomotor domain taxonomy? We learned that the industry needs at least precision level. That means the third level of the psychomotor domain. But in the affective domain outcomes, the industry needs characterization, because they want students with the right attitudes who will always be consistent to the social values which they want in the industry. Like, they have to be punctual, they have to practice good housekeeping, they have to work as a team member, they have to work as a team leader, right? They have to be joyful, they have to be sincere. There are so many things which the industry wants and which should be part of their character of all the employees of that industry. Therefore, the industry wants that we in the institute, for 3 years in the diploma or 4 years for the UG program, how can you build in these affective domain outcomes so that when you assess them partially, or I would say as much as possible, then by the end of the 4 years, at least some of the values, some of the affective domain outcomes become internalized in the student, or at least at the valuing and organization level, at least at some level other than receiving. That means he's at some level, maybe not all the levels are at characterization level, but at least some of the outcomes are at characterization. And how can this be developed? And this can happen only and only if you start assessing, and that will happen only when where can you assess them? What is the best way to develop affective domain taxonomy? Any answers? What is the best way, or which is the best way to develop affective domain outcomes in the student, in the institute? Answers, please. Are you listening? Could you hear my question? Which is the best way to develop affective domain outcomes in the student, in the institute? By assigning, okay, that's one answer. Any other answer? That is not. Then what is the method of developing? I'm not talking of laboratory. It can be developed in the laboratory. How can you assess? I'm asking you, how can you, okay, how can you develop? Okay, in the laboratory is one answer. Then, any other answer? If you as a teacher is a role model, that's the answer. Okay. If we as teachers can practice good housekeeping, we as teachers can practice punctuality, we as teachers can practice good team working, we as teachers can be joyful in our working. When we act as role models, these also get developed in the students. I think all of you should agree with that, because I still remember some of my best teachers, and the social and the affective domain outcomes they practiced in when they were teaching us. So being a role model for many of the social outcome based for the affective domain outcomes will help to develop the affective domain outcomes, right? Being a role model. Okay, how can you assess? That's my next question. How can you assess the affective domain outcomes? Yes, answers. How can you assess the affective domain outcomes? You have to clearly write down that, for example, team working. You can develop, or you can develop as well as assess team working when the student is working in the laboratory. So you must, out of suppose 10 marks is given for each laboratory work, you should set apart for teamwork 1 mark, leadership 1 mark, good housekeeping 1 mark, something like that. So if you can, so when the student knows that he is being assessed for affective domain outcomes also, he will practice good housekeeping, he will be punctual, he will give in time, all those things would be there. Therefore, allot marks for affective domain outcomes also. So suppose you are allotting marks for team working in every, in every laboratory. So for the whole year, how is a skill developed, by the way? Affective domain outcomes are also skills. Skills are developed by repetition. If the student keeps on repeating a skill again and again and again, it becomes part of his habit or character. So when you are forcing the students that when he's being assessed for the outcomes, it will become part of his character by the end of 4 years or 3 years, because in every semester at least 5 laboratories are there, and you are going to assess him almost in every laboratory for team working, good housekeeping and things like that. By the end of it, again and again he would have repeated good housekeeping, and by the time he graduates, at least some part of it, he would be at least at the valuing state. That is the way you can develop the outcome. Then what is the other way you can assess affective domain outcomes? That is through project work. you should have, let me put it, affective, you should have micro projects in every course. That is not there in many of the universities. But if you can include micro projects in every course, many of these things, many of the course outcomes can be developed. So when you are developing each of these outcomes, outcomes in the psychomotor domain, outcomes in the cognitive domain, and outcomes in the affective domain, the integrated performance of all these three micro level learning outcomes in the three domains develops the course outcome. This is what has to be remembered. So bit by bit, you develop all this in the laboratory and the classroom, and the integrated performance of all these micro level outcomes make a course outcome. This is what you have to keep in mind whenever you are teaching, whenever you are assessing. So even if your university does not include a micro project, but you as a teacher can give the students, you can see, you as a teacher can do many things which the university may not say, because you may be under the hub and spoke university system. But for autonomous institutes, you can include micro projects in your courses. So that is what I had to say, and maybe I will stop over here and I will take some questions. Because it's almost going to be 12 before we break. Okay. So I will take some questions. Myself and Dr. Gupta, we can answer some questions that you have regarding all these presentations so far. Okay, I want to, just a minute.
Professor Joshua,
Yeah.
there are two questions.
Yeah, please read it out because I am somehow unable to see it.
Okay.
Can you please read it?
How to really engage students? Can I respond to it?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Dear friends, in outcome-based education, we know that learner-centric approaches are very, very important. Most of the time, the student should be proactive and active in the learning process. So to engage the student, it is not simply engaging the students, but to develop the higher level of abilities, we need to give classroom assignment, home assignment, library assignment, field assignment. As Professor Joshua told about a micro project, maybe role play, maybe group discussion, maybe action learning, maybe educational game. So our whole course plan should be designed in such a way so that we simply act as a facilitator, mentor, guide, coach, and students are active in the learning process. In other words, I want to say that we should use lecture method, improve lecture method, presentation, and demonstration minimally. And most of the time, we should try to plan other methods which are learner-centric methods. So this is my response to the question. Professor Joshua, would you like to add?
It is okay. It is fine.
Yeah. And for engineering students, there are other tools also available like industrial visits, excursion, internship, industrial training, and doing projects in the industry. It may be relevant for other disciplines also, but this is how we can develop the higher level of abilities in all the three domains of learning. Then another question is there, sir, from Professor Khanna.
Yes.
The question is, as we have pressure of syllabus completion, how to make a fine balance? In outcome-based education, I am responding, sir.
Yes,
In
yes, please.
outcome-based education, the focus is not to cover the content, but the focus is to uncover the content. So it is not the responsibility of the teacher to simply repeat the content. In other words, it is the responsibility of the teacher or the professor should ensure that all the students develop minimum acceptable level ability related to course outcome. So more of decentralization of learning should be done throughout the semester. In other words, again, the teachers should use learner-centric approaches. It is not covering the content, it is uncovering the content, making them active and proactive in the learning process. Professor Joshua.
Yes. First of all, let me tell you, if you are writing the outcomes very clearly at the competency level, at the course outcome level, which we have been doing from yesterday, and at the micro level outcome level, that is practical outcome, cognitive domain outcome, and the affective domain outcome, then the destination is already known to the student that this is the outcome required of you at the end of this class, at the end of the laboratory work, or at the end of the course, or at the end of the program also. At the end of the program, it is the PSO, that is the outcome. That means the destination is known to the students right in the beginning if your curriculum is properly framed. If it is not framed, please revise it, or you can do it on your own as well. Once the outcomes are clearly stated, the students can learn on his own as well. You become a facilitator for him to reach that outcome. It is not that you have to teach only the lecture. You can tell him you watch this video in order that you reach that outcome. You can say you read this book in order to reach it. So you start functioning as a facilitator and not as an information dispenser. Many of us still think हमने lecture नहीं लिया तो हमारा course cover नहीं हुआ. It is not like that. You have to tell, well, I would say in Maharashtra curriculum, we have kept 20% the teachers will not teach. Only 80% the students, but for the 20% they will be assessed. That means they have to self-learn. Lifelong learning, how it can be developed? Only when you help the student to self-learn. So I would say in every course, at least 20 to 30% you should keep for self-learning. That is what will happen. And through that self-learning, you have to give the outcome for that course. What are the course outcomes? You can say for CO1, I will not be teaching, you have to self-learn and you have to attain CO1 on your own, something like that. So you have to design the curriculum or revise the curriculum in such a way that the outcomes are very, very clear to the students in unambiguous terms. That's why I'm telling you again and again, it should be specific and unambiguous. Use single action verbs. Then the student knows where I have to reach and they will themselves reach. They may take right in the first slide, I said, if you have to reach Gateway of India, that's the destination. You can go by plane, you can go by car, you can go by bullock cart, you can go by walking, you can take a motorbike. So there are different ways of reaching the destination. Similarly, lecture method is one way of reaching the outcome. But he has to do the practicals, he has to see the videos, he has to see MOOCs, he has to see Swayam lectures, something like that. I think I've answered the question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, next question is there from another fellow professor.
There is one question: how to apply in management. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Whatever be the course, whatever be the program, all these outcomes can be written. And how to apply in management? That question is incomplete for me. If you can tell me what you want in management, then maybe I can answer the question. How to apply in management? Maybe Professor Gupta, did you understand the question?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, yes. In management, actually, management is nothing but practice. So from practice, we can pick up the anecdotes, incidences, caselets, case studies, role plays, maybe the real life problems, maybe the theme requiring innovation, like that. So we need to be in touch with the happenings in the world of work, and we can pick up the incidences, anecdotes, caselets, case studies. We can pick up the issues, themes, and this is how we can involve the students for higher level of learning. So maybe through role play, discussion, debate, seminar, these are the teaching learning methods which can be used. And this is how the higher level of course outcomes or higher level of learning outcomes can be developed in even in management. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I think we close here.
One more question is there, sir.
Yes. Yeah.
How can we formulate a situation for any theoretical subject of computer science?
Okay. How can you formulate a situation? See, if the student has to work in the industry, you have to pick up situations from the industry. You are not to formulate a situation. In the industry, what will he do? See, you are preparing him for employment, right? So at the employment place or at the workplace, what will he do? That is the situation. Pick up small situations from there. I will not say big situations. Small. You break up the big situation into small and pick up pieces of that and put them in the questions. That's what has to be done.
There is another question, sir. Let me respond to this question.
Yes.
What are the basic measures we have to take care before setting our program educational objectives? Dear friends, as we are aware that program educational objectives focus on 3 to 5 years after graduation. So we need to analyze the trend in technology development or trends in that particular domain or discipline, number one. Number two, we need to involve industry, alumni, professional bodies, and other persons who are involved in that particular discipline. So there is a team at program level. That team must be constituted involving all these types of stakeholders, at least the representatives, and after detailed discussion, the program educational objectives should be formulated. So it is the highest level of learning outcome, we can say, right from learning outcome at unit level, then course level, then competency, then POs and PSOs, and then program educational objectives. So industry involvement is very, very important, and forecasting, predicting the trends in the technology or in domain specific development is very, very important before we formulate the program educational objectives.
And I would just add to this,
sure,
program educational objectives, you have to be in discussion with the industry to ask them in 3 to 5 years, what do they expect from the graduates from the institute to be expert in? So by in 3 to 5 years, what would they be expert in? That is what is program education objectives. That's what SAR also says. So you have to be in touch with the employer or the industry to arrive at that. You may have certain ideas. So what you can do is you can frame a program educational objective and get it validated from the industry, whether this is the expertise required by you. That is another way of doing it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think we break over here. we have taken crossed 6 minutes and half an hour's time is there. So we come back at 12:35 or 12:36, right? Half an hour break I'm giving you. And okay. Thank you, friends. So at you can take a break for lunch and come back by 12:36. It's and on my clock it's 12:06, so 12:30 minutes. Right. Thank you. morning, friends. 78 of us have joined. Can I have the sharing privilege?
Yeah, Joshua sir, just hold on. I think we will just give it to you.
Yeah.
We'll just give it to you and
Yeah.
we will commence with the proceedings immediately. Give me a minute only to organize it, sir.
No issues, no issues. Good afternoon to one and all. Again, I think we should start as soon as I get the privilege option. Okay, thank you. I think I've got the share button. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, friends, can you hear me? Can you see the slide?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Very on.
Okay. Just minimize this and keep it here. Okay. Well, in this session, we would be talking about the characteristics of a good assessment system and designing an SEE, that means semester end examination question paper, right? So this is the title for afternoon session. Yeah, the strategy to assess a competency in the CO, what is it? To begin with, you had a good lunch. How is many of you are asking, any ideas how to assess the competency and the course outcomes? The best option, the optimum strategy to assess the competency and the course outcomes is by what we call as micro projects in each course, right? Which include more than a number of COs will be included in that. And that means one micro project maybe by a group of 3 or 4 students will be doing that. Now, what is the strategy to assess PSOs? The strategy to assess PSOs is through capstone projects, right? Where a number of courses, number of competencies will be assessed as in an integrated manner. Now, let us go to the characteristics of a good assessment. There are various terms which all of us should be aware. One is validity, the other is reliability, the third is objectivity, the fourth is practicability, the fifth is fairness and sufficiency. So if we are able to fulfill these requirements, then our assessment should fairly be good. Now, what is validity? Validity is, it is the extent to which the evaluation procedure measures what it intends to measure, what it intended to measure, right? What does it mean? That means if you have an outcome which says, explain the working of some equipment, say it's a motor, say maybe it's a IC engine, or maybe it's a 4-stroke engine or a 2-stroke engine. When your outcome is explained, your question also should be the question should also be explain the working of a so and so equipment. So whatever is the outcome, that should be measured. That is meant by validity. Okay. The factors affecting validity are the content coverage, whether those contents were already in the curriculum, the level of the language of the questions, the style of questions, the length of the test item, the scope for blessing and bluffing is reduced if there is a choice. Okay. So these factors will affect the validity of the question, whether it measures what it is intended to measure. Okay. Next comes reliability. The question should be reliable. What does it mean? It means it is the consistency with which an evaluation instrument measures what it measures. When you say consistency, another way of telling is consistency of assessment by all the teachers and examiners. That means if a question is marked, or say if a 5 or 10 marks question is evaluated by assessed by a teacher and he gives 7 marks, any other teacher who will be evaluating that question will be giving round about should be given the best reliability 7 marks, or else it can be 8 or it can be 6, but it cannot be 3 and 4. If it is 3, if the teacher is giving 3 and 4, and many teachers are giving in 3 and 4, some teachers are giving 7 and 8, that means that question is not reliable. Consistency means it should, the same answers or the same, every teacher should give round about the same marks. That's one test, and that's one indicator whether the question is reliable or not. Factors affecting reliability: measurable and demonstrate outcomes, whether that has been clearly been set in the curriculum, whether explicit criteria and standards are already given, whether unambiguous and questions are not given, and whether clear marking scheme is given, and sufficient number of questions and tasks are given, and frequent assessment at regular intervals happen. So assessment by different examiners should be give the same result. So that is one aspect, or these are some of the factors that affect the reliability of the various questions. Now, what is the other one? The purpose of good assessment is to hit a ball inside a goalpost. Let us look at this small illustration. There is a goalpost and the ball is kicked into the goal. But two balls go onto the left and balls go onto the right. So we say the question or the hitting the goal was not reliable, not valid as well. Now, if the ball goes towards all the balls, when you hit, it goes only to the right, then we can say the hitting was reliable, but it was not valid. But if all the balls are hit into the goal post and all go into the goal, then we say the hitting the ball or kicking the ball was reliable and valid. So that means your question should not only be valid, it should be reliable as well. Okay. This was reliable but not valid. So it should be valid and reliable for all questions. So these are the two major characteristics of any good assessment. So reliability is essential condition for validity, but not the sufficient condition. Okay. Now coming to objectivity, that is another feature of a good assessment system. Objectivity means elimination or reduction of subjectivity. That means there should not be any confusion in so that the marks are differently awarded by different people. Subjectivity is taking decisions based on personal preferences or biases. That means the question should be framed in such a way and the marks allotted in such a way that there is objectivity, there's utmost objectivity. Now, regarding practicability, what does it mean? It means it is the usability or the implementability of the evaluation system in terms of resources, including time, ease of administration, availability of expertise required for setting the paper, and the assessment and the interpretation of the results by the students, employees, and society. Okay. Okay. I was asked that what does validity mean? Well, somebody asked what is validity. Validity is if your outcome, in your curriculum, the outcome is that he has to design a slab. So your question should also be framed in such a way that the student is able to design a slab in any situation or in the given situation. That's what is validity all about. So we go, yeah.
So Joshua,
Yes.
there are two more aspects which we can introduce right now.
Yes.
That is content validity and construct validity.
Okay.
Many times we have found that so many jargons are used in the question paper. The double negative type of things are used. The stem is made or the question is made so complicated that it is very difficult to interpret. So that is construct validity.
That's
And
right. That's
content, yeah, and content validity, you have already pointed out
yes.
that whatever questions we are framing, it should be at par with the course outcome or learning
Yes.
outcome which we are intended to measure.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So next we come to the practicability. It should be usable and implementable as well. That means within, if it is a test of 1 hours, it should be within that time. That many questions should only be given. If it's a 3-hour question, only that many questions should be given, and valid and reliability also comes into that. So this is regarding the practical aspects about it. Fairness. Fairness means that the test should provide equal opportunity to all students to display the outcomes. So you have already stated the outcomes in the curriculum, right? And you should provide equal opportunity. That means, for example, if it is in the lab, every student should be able to display the outcome required there. It's not only, generally what happens in the lab, about 4 to 5 students perform a practical. In that, what happens, 1 or 2 very smart students, they always take the opportunity to do the practical, while the other 3 may not get an opportunity. So as a teacher, we have to see that there is fairness in the assessment as well. I mean, that's one example I've given. So there should be fairness, enough of fairness. Sufficiency. It means that the amount of test items should be just enough to serve the need of the teaching learning process and the relevant outcomes to be displayed again. That means it should not be more nor should be less. It should be just enough so that the students are rightly assessed. That's the meaning of that. Next, we come to design of a good question paper. Let us say physics curriculum. In a physics curriculum, you have, because I'm taking physics, because we have people from all different types of program. Management is there, and pharmacy is there, and other things. Other people are also there. So I'm taking a general example. And physics is generally there right from our 12th, 11th, 12th, and onwards. All of us have studied physics. So physics can have general properties of matter. Heat is there, light is there, sound is there, magnetism is there, and electricity is there. So, and we have to teach them at remember level, at understand level, apply level, analyze level, and evaluate level. This is what we do in the classroom for the whole semester, right? And when it comes to a end semester 3-hour question paper, how should the question be? And create as well. We teach like that, right? And how should the question be? It should be a representative sample of all these. All the topics as well as the contents, as well as to the depth. And how is that depth decided? That depth is decided based on the outcomes that is there in the curriculum, right? So based on the outcomes, the depth is decided, and based on that, we formulate questions. But generally to see, most of the questions, or in many of the universities, often, I'll not say always, it is up to understand level. We don't ask questions beyond understand level, or maybe 1 or 2 may be there, maybe 10% questions or 20% questions will be there. But the industry wants apply level or HOTS level questions more and less of understand level. So in order to make them employable, we have to ask them questions at all levels. So your final year question paper should be a representative sample of the whole curriculum. This is what all of us miss out, and how this can happen. So we have seen that the competency is there, the outcomes are there, right? Course outcomes are there, and based on that, we have to have a table of specifications, which I had mentioned yesterday also. So if there are 5 units, right, of your theory, you should have a specification table which will help you to design the questions. Okay, now let us see an example how this is done. I will show you a Word file in which all these things, whatever we have discussed right now is there, and then how we can design a good question paper. Now, can you see this XYZ university?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. Now we will be discussing on this. What all we have discussed from yesterday, we are looking now into a course which has been designed by a good university where we were teaching, where we have trained the participants into that, right? So you have this is a course on theory of machines. It is in the 5th semester. You have a rational. This is the course structure of a typical UG course, right? You have the rational, and this has been prepared by a faculty member of a reputed university. Okay, I'm not naming it for obvious reasons. Well, but it is a fairly a good course structure. The competency is written, which I've taken the competency from this course structure. You must realize, you must have understood. Evaluate the performance of various types of mechanical drives in the machines, right? And to match that competency, the course outcomes have been written, which I have already displayed to you on the PowerPoint as well. So you will find that the competency as well as the course outcomes are industry oriented, right? Then you have the teaching scheme. Now for the competency and the course outcomes, the first thing that they did was, I'll just this course, there's a course map also. I'm not discussing that at this point of time. Just to tell that from the course, for the course outcomes, they have identified the practicals. So 1, 2, 3. So I've already showed you the practicals. These 2 practicals I've picked up from this course and displayed yesterday and today as well. Okay. So, and these practicals are related to unit 1 of the theory. And it requires 2 marks, right? And now I'll go to the theory of this. Now, if you look at the theory now, select the type of drive chain required for the given mechanism for that course outcome. For that first course outcome, these are the unit outcomes for that course outcome. And for the practicals also we have seen. So this belt and chain drive is the unit or module, which you may call it, some call it as a module, but we are calling it as a unit. Belt and chain drive is the unit, and it's unit 1, and therefore it is 1A, 1B. And you must have seen the given is very much specified over here. That makes it very specific to a higher level outcome. When you use the word the given, right, and the associated outcome and the associated verb, then you get it as a higher level outcome. And you will also see the related topics are related to these outcomes. So you have seen now from the competency, you have the course outcome. From the course outcomes, you derive the practical outcomes. From the practical outcomes, what are the underpinning theory components? That is what is required. That means for doing those practicals, these are the theory required. And for this theory or for these unit outcomes, what are the topics? So the topics emerge from the outcomes, right? But generally what happens when you develop curriculum, many people, what they do, they take the topics and try to fit the unit outcomes. But that's not the way when you develop a curriculum. But when you teach, you go from the topic to the unit outcome. By teaching the unit outcomes, you help the student to do the practicals. And by doing the practicals, you integrate the theory and the practical, and the course outcome gets developed. So for each of your course outcomes, you need to write down the unit outcomes at the application and above levels. This is what you can see over here. Okay, we have used the word select. Okay, you have used the word evaluate, and these are all matching with the verbs used in the course outcomes as well. That is what you would have realized when we have seen in the on the PowerPoint, right? We have used the word determine. We have never used any word which is not observable and measurable. You got the point? And for these outcomes, now the questions have to be developed. This is what so for each of the units, you will be developing the unit outcomes like this, right? At least 4 to 5. So for all the 6 units, it has been developed, and the matching topics are also there. So you can reform your curriculum in this way, so that you will be able to develop the questions. So if you have written the course outcomes like unit outcomes like this, you will be definitely be able to develop outcomes at questions at the of the higher order thinking skills. That means apply, analyze, evaluate, and I would say what you call create, right? So now let us see another an example of some questions, a good question paper. Yeah, any questions on this so far, by the way, before we go ahead? Any questions? Professor Gupta, if you can read out the questions, maybe we can answer.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions regarding the unit outcomes, the practical outcomes, the course outcomes? And because based on this only, you can make the question paper a good one. If you have no questions, I can go ahead. Are there any?
Professor Joshua?
Yes.
There is no question, but I would suggest you to discuss the map also. Actually, that will clarify many of the things.
Okay.
It will take 5 minutes.
Okay.
It will take 5 minutes, but it would be better for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I was not discussing the map, only the reason being, it is not there in many of the curricula of the Indian universities. It is only there with a few. Anyway.
But as a course teacher, they can develop.
Yeah. See, I've told you, this is a course map for a particular course. How a curriculum is developed. See, in the center, you have the competency, which we have already discussed. You can identify for your course, and there are course outcomes on the first orbit. In the first orbit, those course outcomes which we had discussed in the morning and yesterday also, that is written over here. Now, if you see the course outcomes, when the student reaches the industry, first he is to do some practical. Therefore, the practical outcomes are there in the second orbit, right? And for doing the practicals, he needs to have the head knowledge, or he should know the theory, and that is in the third orbit, right? And from the cognitive or head knowledge, for teacher, for learning the head knowledge or the cognitive level outcomes, the last orbit contains the topics. So when you develop the curriculum, you go from the center to the course outcomes, from the course outcomes to the practical outcomes, from the practical outcomes to the cognitive domain outcomes, and from there the topics emerge out. And you have the curriculum with you as you have now, as you're seeing now. So when you start teaching, you will take the topics and then teach in the classroom in such a way so that the cognitive domain outcomes are developed. And when you develop the cognitive domain outcomes, you will tell the students, now we will do the practical related to those cognitive domain outcomes. And then you develop the psychomotor domain outcomes in the laboratory or the workshop or the field. Because I'm talking field because the civil engineers do survey and all in the fields. So field is also I'm mentioning. So once the practical is done, these two outcomes, the integrated performance of these two outcomes will help you to develop the course outcomes. Are you getting me? So that is why from yesterday what I have been discussing, these two, the integrated performance of these two outcomes and this is the pink one over here, this is the affective domain outcomes. The integrated performance of affective domain outcomes, the practical outcomes and the unit level outcomes helps you to the course outcomes. And when the integrated performance of the course outcomes will develop the competency. So when you teach, you go from outer circle to the center. When you develop the curriculum, you go from the center to the outer circle. So that is the logic. So this course map has been developed so that the student knows exactly where he is in one page. The whole course is in front of him or her. So this is a sample course map that has been developed. So I think, Professor Gupta, I think it should be clear. Any doubts so far? Because this is the foundation for developing a good question paper. The outcome should be very, very specific and unambiguous. Okay. So if there are no questions, I will go. We can discuss a good question paper. Let us see a model question paper. Yeah. Okay. Now, see, this is the task that you have to do. Now, I'll come to the task and then we go backwards. The outcome of this session is that you will be able to design a semester end examination question paper to measure the HOTS or higher order thinking skills. Can you see this? Are you able to see the template?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the task that you have to do and submit by 10th. You have to write your name, write down the competency of your course. Let me put it. It is not the course of your course. You have to choose your course. Of your course. And for that course, develop the or identify the competency. For that competency, formulate the 5 to 6 course outcomes. Or if you have the course outcomes written, modify it, revise it so that it matches with or fulfills the competency. And then for those course outcomes, write at least 2 outcomes over here. Are you getting my point? And then the related topics. And once this is done, then you'll have to develop the specification table, right? And based on that, you'll have to develop this question paper. Okay. So I've given a sample and they should be that there are 6 units are there. 6 questions are being given, right? So that you get a feel of it, that for each unit, no, it is not for, it's a question paper, it's a representative sample of the entire course. So I've left out the course here. I've given for a sample. Your first question will have 6 parts, A, B, A to G. And you have to write questions or formulate questions that remember, understand, and remember level. Okay. and it can be up from CO1, CO2, CO3, CO4, CO5, CO6. Then after that, it is up to you. Well, if it's a 3 marks question, you will have to write, you will have to frame questions A to E, understand level, apply level, analyze level. And from any of the course outcomes, you can do that. But see that it matches your question with the situation, should match with the course outcomes. Okay? Any doubt regarding this? We can see one example on that, and then we come back. Okay? Okay. Now, this is the example that I'm showing you based on the discussions from the slides. You have written the, we have written the competency, then we have written the course outcomes. Based on the course outcomes, Professor Gupta, can you see me? It is seen. Course outcomes interpret the performance of the belt chain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay, thank you. Now, you look at the course outcome 1, interpret the performance of the belt chain mechanism. For this one, I have written 2 unit outcomes. Okay, select the type of drive required for the given mechanism. This is at the apply level. Evaluate the effect of the friction for the specified drive. This is at the evaluate level. This one is at the apply level, right? So and these 2 unit outcomes, they are fulfilling the first course outcome. You got the point? I will maybe I can split it so that it will be easy for you to understand. Let me see. View, split the screen. Okay. Now I am here. Now, if you see this course outcome over here, I have written 2. Similarly, you will have to write at least 2 unit outcomes for each course outcome, right? Then we go for the second one, second course outcome. Okay. For the second course outcome, okay. For the second course outcome, we have interpret the performance of the cam. It is follower. It is a cam follower. Okay. Right. So interpret the performance of the cam follower mechanism in machines. So for that, what is the unit outcome written? Select the type of cam follower mechanism for the given application. See, for the given application is given. Explain the type of cam follower motion for the specified time motion, right? So you will have to first write the outcomes like this for each of the units, for matching to each of the course outcomes, at least 2, right? Once you have written that, then you will have to develop formulate the table of specifications. So if you will see that this university has gone for a 60-40 ratio, 40 marks for practicals and 60 marks for theory. Therefore, because it is an autonomous university, so it's a 60 marks question paper. And if you will see, if you add up the apply level, the analyze level, and the evaluate level and create level, this is at least 80% of the questions are at the HOTS level, or higher order thinking skills. It is measuring or assessing the higher order thinking skills. So these are the 6 units, and this is the specification table based on Bloom's revised taxonomy. Once this is done, then it is much easy for you to develop the question paper. Are you with me? Right? So you have the define an electrical power system. Okay. Right? This is for electrical one, which has been given. Like this, it will go on. Okay. So you see, for example, see, these are all real examples that are given. Okay. For example, let's see, a 30 MVA 11 kV generator of at an XYZ hydropower station has that, like that. Then a 200 MVA 11 kV 50 hertz 4-pole alternator. So you have to give situations like this, near to real life situations, and tell the student what to do. So this is a types of questions that is required by you. It can be a 4-mark question, and another 4-mark question. You can give figures like this, right? Like that. So I think if this one is clear, any questions you have so far? Yes. Is the task clear? The task 2 will be this format is going to be sent to you today. By today evening, you will get this format. So yesterday you were given the multiple choice items in which you have to develop the outcomes, develop the questions at the various levels of revised Bloom's taxonomy. And this is a short answer question. That was a multiple choice questions, and this is the short answer questions. Any questions? Yes. I did not receive it. Maybe you can check it in your spam folder, or maybe any other folder, or you can request AICT to resend to you again, because I am told that it was sent to you. Okay, this question will come, this format will come to you in time, right? Any questions related to this? Professor Gupta, anything you would like to add?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Dear friends.
All right.
Yeah. Dear friends, Professor Joshua has very nicely explained the specification table and distribution of marks at various levels of cognitive domain. And he has rightly pointed out that 80% weightage is given in this particular example to HOTS. So at institute level or at university level, there could be a policy that is called a policy related to examination and assessment. And in the policy, you can decide that how much weightage should be given to HOTS and how much weightage should be given to LOTS, like that. There are many other aspects. So everything can be written in the assessment policy of the institute, and it should be posted on the website so that everybody is aware, teachers, students, employers, everybody is aware that what is the level of standards of assessment in this particular university or in this particular college. And accordingly, the system will be implemented. That is one thing I wanted to tell you. Otherwise, what will happen? Different teachers will follow different formulae, and there will not be any uniformity, one thing, and there will not be any quality assurance in the assessment. So that is one thing. Second thing is that during orientation program or induction program, we should orient the at the beginning of the year or at the time of the admission, when we orient the teachers and students, that time we should also give orientation related to assessment policy of the institute, so that right from the beginning, everything becomes clear to them, and our expectations related to examination and assessment are clear to students, so that they do not create any any problem or crisis for the authorities. That is the second thing. Third thing I want to say, especially for the in the context of accreditation, that every year using this specification table, we should try to increase the difficulty level, or in other words, the higher level assessment, so that we can prove that we are continuously raising our bar or standards of assessment, and in this way we are continuously improving the quality of education at institute level. Over to Professor Joshua.
Okay. Yeah, there's one question in the chat. For the assignment, we have to prepare COs of all units of course and the questions with respect to RBT. Yes, you have to prepare all the COs. In that format, it is given over there. So prepare the COs or revise. You may be having COs for your courses. If you don't have, prepare the COs. If you are having the COs, revise the COs so that identify the competency and revise the COs accordingly, because then only you can correct the, then only you can see whether the COs written are correctly or not. Because in many universities, I found that they are using verbs which are not at all observable and measurable. They are writing understand, analyze, study, learn. So with those, if you have such outcomes, you will not be able to formulate observable and measurable unit level outcomes, practical outcomes, and affective domain outcomes. So that that is one question that I'm seeing in the chat. Any other question that you have? Yeah, another question is, yesterday we received a mail from AICT regarding assignment 1 or task 1, and up to 10th, that is today is 8th, 9th and 10th. We are giving 2 days to complete the assignment. Tomorrow you will be getting an assignment on rubrics as well. That means there are 3 tasks to be performed, based on which you will be getting certificates, right? Basically, this is the tasks are there in order to find out whether you have really understood or not, so that you can go through these presentations, go think over this and try to improve the type of questions that you are already giving to your students. The intention is that, basically, whether you have understood or not. So if you have not understood, please ask today and tomorrow on any aspect of the presentations that we both are giving. But you have to have all the answers, at least 80%. You should, 80% of your outcomes should be correctly written. Then only you will be qualifying for getting the certificate, as Colonel Venkat has already told. Any other question regarding the task? Because this is most important. Because in the last batch, they were telling that we wanted more time for question and answer. That's why I've kept some time for the question and answer. Yes. Yeah, if you don't have any more questions, maybe I can discuss with you regarding the specification table, because that was I just hurriedly gone through that. Yes. Yeah, in the specification table, I just want to mention that now. For the diploma level programs, we generally restrict to apply level and above. That's how we write. But for the UG level, we need to have up to creation level, because that's what our industry requirement is. The industry requirement is the graduates of our institutes or the graduates passing out from the UG programs, they should be able to solve complex engineering problems. And therefore, we should have more of apply level, analyze level, evaluate level, and C level, and the create level, right? There's a question. I will try to answer that. Let me go to that. Professor Gupta, can you read out? There was a question. It just vanished. Let me see.
No, no, sir. I'm not seeing any
No?
fresh
No?
question. Yeah.
There was a comment? No. Okay. So, yeah, what is it? Mapping? No. Mapping. Yeah, the question was whether map is required. No, I don't expect you to do a map because we have not spent much time on that. Our humble request is your question paper should be able to assess the outcomes that you have already written. Therefore, we are making you. I'll come to that again. See. Your question paper, why we have made you to, why we are asking you to do that is because unless you convert your COs to the right unit outcomes, you will not be able to design the right questions of HOTS level. Therefore, we are helping you so that, and if you have any questions, I would rather put it this way. Please write down an apply level question, and maybe we can give a comment on that. Because there are different, I'm telling that some are telling I'm from the management, some are telling that I'm from the pharmacy. Can each of you, those who have doubts, please write down. I'm giving you all of you 5 minutes time to write first an apply level outcome, and then a question matching to that. Can you do that? And we can give you comments on that. In the chat box, you can write down. Are you all there? Are you all there? Yes. So I would like to see an outcome from your course. Yeah. Interpret the performance. Yeah, let me see that. Interpret the performance of a Rockwell hardness cone in strength of materials. This is, I would say this is not, this can be improved. This outcome can be improved. I would not say this is a really, at what level is it? At what level have you written it? See, interpret the performance of, I would rather put it not, see, in the industry, how will he get the outcome? That is what is required. You are writing because this is an outcome that you're writing for, or this is a question that you're writing. Interpret the performance of a hardness cone. If this is a question, then you should give more specifications for that, more data. Hardness cone, interpret the performance of the hardness cone given or shown in the figure or given in the table, something like that. You'll have to give data whereby he will be able to interpret it. That's one way if it's a question. If it is an outcome, you have to say interpret the hardness for various types of materials. That is the outcome. The question will be interpret the performance of the Rockwell hardness cone in the strength, not in the strength of material. That you have to delete. You'll have to write interpret the performance of the Rockwell hardness for the given figure, in the given figure, or with respect to the given table in which you have to give the data. Otherwise, it is not a question. Okay, it is just a statement. So that is why. Good. Let me see the next one. Working of a PN junction comes under. This is not an outcome at all. Okay. Or this is not a question at all. There is no verb in it. Okay. You will have to write explain the working of a PN junction. But this will be again on the understand level. It is not at the application level. We want you, because you can write questions in the application level and remember level very easily, because that you have been doing for years together. In the examination reforms policy, as per that, we have to see that you are able to develop question papers to measure at the application, apply and above levels. Okay. Now let me see the next one. Remember level. Okay. It's in the, but even then, even if it's in the remember level, Mr. Ranjana saying, you should have a verb. You should say explain the working. Explain verb has to come. Okay. Next one is assess the public policies related to rural, but this is incomplete. What,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
I also want to offer comment. Yeah.
Yes.
I think assess public policies related to rural development is not a complete outcome.
Yes.
Professor Joshua has already mentioned that some condition, criteria, and which criteria you want to assess, which type of policies you want to assess. Unless you make it objective, unless you make it specific, it is not going to serve the purpose. So condition or criteria should be given so that students are focused in writing like that.
As a course outcome, it is okay. Assess public policies related to rural development. Course outcome is okay, but your question is not correct. The question should match with the condition and criteria, as Professor Gupta has rightly now said. Okay, that's the course outcome. Anybody else would like to? Yeah, but this is working of PN junction comes under remember. No, it is not under remember. If he has to explain, it is under. When you write the word, see, remember means it will be state, list, name, label. This all will generally come under remember level. Define. Any other question? Working of that's done. Create a AVL tree for okay, but you have to, the condition and criteria will still have to be given. That's what I want to say. Can you perform the 3 tree traversals on AVL? This is not a good question. You should not write, can you do this? Can you do that? No, that is not the way to write questions. You have to create an AVL tree for this value to achieve what? That has to be given. This, can you perform the tree? That is not the way to pose a question. Maybe in the class you can pose this question when you are face to face with the student. But in a question paper, you should avoid asking opinions about it. Okay. You have to exactly tell him or her what she has to do. Create an AVL tree to attain what? For what reason? So you must give the question should be complete. That's what I have to say. You must give a situation and criteria. You have given the situation, but the criteria is not given, or the data plus the reason has to be given. That is what will happen in the industry. See, you have to pose a situation as he gets the problem in the industry. That is what is important. Then only you can prepare him to be employable. Yeah, any more? Can you perform the three reversals in the tree? Justify. Now, this is, see, you should not ask first person questions. Let me put it like that. You must say, perform the three reversals on AVL tree with justification. Okay. Perform should be your active verb. You should start with action verbs, or there should be active verb. Can you should be avoided. Okay. The next question.
I am able to see one question. Estimate the hardness of given water sample. Here we can put some condition like
Yes.
In this situation using this type of equipment or that type of method or like
Perfect.
that.
Very good, very good. You can tell for a village of 100 people, or for there is a water treatment plant, something like, you must tell a real, near to real life situations should be given. That's what has to be done. Is it okay, Professor Gupta? Maybe you can give a better
Yes,
your
sir, yes, sir.
civil engineer.
Yeah. No, the thing is that we should try to make it specific as you have told.
Yes.
So we can put the condition or criteria. So maybe equipment or a particular method or particular procedure or particular model or particular tool or particular technique like that. Or maybe the time or maybe the quality or maybe so those types of aspects may be incorporated in the outcome itself. Then
Right.
it will be more specific.
Then only it is an apply and above level question. That's what we are trying to say again and again. Now, let me, Mr. Ajit Singh has written one question. Construct a DFA with a reduced states equivalent to a, this is a, which level question? What do you consider? First, let me ask you, what type of question do you say it is? Then I will answer your question. Then I will give my comments. This is an understand level question. That's what I want to say. This is not at all a apply level question. Reason being, he is to just use some formula to find out, to construct the DF. You have to give a situation and a criteria, a problem. When he goes to the industry, how will he get this problem? You state that problem so that he will be able to solve it. Then only it becomes an apply level. This is a straight application of some formula, and therefore it goes under the understand level. It is not at the apply level.
So another one CO is there.
Yes.
Evaluate the concept of thermal behavior of fins, or apply the concept of thermal behavior of fins.
Okay. Let me tell, just by using the word evaluate or apply will not make it an apply or evaluate level question. Let me tell you. You have to give unless you give the condition and criteria, it will not be it will always remember, that question will always be at the understand level. You have to give a situation, you have to give a condition, you have to give a criteria. Then only it will be at the apply and above levels. Just by using apply, justify, evaluate, those terms will not do. The meaning of the whole sentence makes it at that level, at that particular level, that has to go. And condition and criteria is important.
Yeah, context has to be established.
Yes.
Acha sir, I want to tell one more thing. Apply
Yes.
the concept. In industry, nobody asks
Yes.
for applying the concept.
That's right. Perfectly
You
right.
solve the problem, you analyze the
Yes.
problem, you develop the product. So it should be task based, not the concept application or technique application.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you give the context, that verb gets a meaning. Otherwise, that verb does not get a meaning in the industry. That is also there, right? Can you perform the three? See this. Let me come to, where am I? Interpret the performance of advancing machining process as well as, these are all understand level questions, my friend. You are not giving the context. Deepak Gupta ji, you have to give the context. Then only it will become. All these are understand level questions only. Explain the rectifier circuit, again understand level. There's no context given. Explain this. Explain what? Explain the working. See, that question itself is incomplete.
So otherwise also in industry, nobody asks us
Yes.
to explain.
That is why I say it goes to the remember level. It is not at all. It is in the remember, or I would say understand level only. It will not go beyond that. Now, evaluate the stability of a linear time invariant system, both in time domain as well as, no, you have not given, see, give the context, give the industry situation where, just by putting the word, this again goes to the understand level only. Evaluate the stability of the invariant system, both in time. Otherwise, you give the situation. What is, give the data. Evaluate the step. This is Mr. Let me see who's asking this question. Anita Khosla ji, madam. What I want to say is, for evaluating the stability of the time, you have to say evaluate the following linear time variant system for its stability. Like that. Then you have to give the data or give the figure or whatever it is. Unless you give the data or figure, it does not go into apply level. This is understand level. These are questions, but they are not at the application apply and above level. Determine the amount of theobromine oil required for preparing a 10 mg repository. Okay. This is, now you are giving the situation. You are giving the context. You are giving the criteria for preparing a 10 mg repository. This is Madam Rupan Kushwaha. Very right. This is a question at the apply level. Okay. See, at the analyze level, how can you do that? Now this is at the apply level, right? But the analyze level, analyze and evaluate level also, you have to prepare questions. Now let me go to the next one. Amish Chandra has written, evaluate the performance of BCG metrics in the given SBUs strategic business units of the ABC company. Why don't you give some company name? Okay, ABC have put performance of the BCG metrics. See, what has happened is, you have to give some performance of the following BCG metrics. You have to give the metrics and then ask him to evaluate the performance. Just by telling this will not do. After this, you have to give the metrics, maybe as a table, maybe as a figure, I do not know what way you have, and then help him to evaluate. Then it is at the evaluate level. Evaluate, that is done. Next one is explain the working. When the moment you say explain, the working comes in the app. No, it is not the application level at all, because there is no, see, if the application level means in the industry, how will the student will get the problem? He is not getting salary to explain the working. Let me put it. You ask yourself, will he get the salary for doing this job? For explanation, no industry will give the salary. Apply level means salary level questions. So this is not, this is a remember level, apply level, I would say remember, understand level question, second level only. My comment was for Ranjana Singh, yes. Vinod Yadav has written, interpret the fundamentals of heat and mass transfer. Again, understand level only. There is no situation, no context, no data. Vinod Yadav, interpret the fundamental, that has already been told.
Sir, if we analyze the questions,
yeah,
I think 2-3 things we need to reinforce. The very first thing is, it is not the only verb.
yes,
but it is the industrial context. It is the real life situation.
Yes.
Real life challenges, which takes the learning outcome up to a creation level.
Yes.
If I talk about design can be at remember level. I simply put the value in the formula and get the answer. Design has been done.
That's right.
Yeah, if some data are given and some assumptions are to be made, and I am using design, then it is application level. But if I have to design new, novel, different, unique product, or if I had to add value to the product, then it is at creation level. Everything is at design level, but everything is means started with the design right from remember level to creation level. So
that's right.
We should try to appreciate the context, the real world situation. More the complexity is there, we are moving from lower level to higher level. So that complexity, maybe in terms of analysis, or maybe in terms of solution, or something related to means creation of new, novel, different and unique things. So that context need to be established. What we have analyzed from your questions, that you are simply using the verbs. So evaluate doesn't mean evaluate. Design doesn't mean at application level. Context will decide the level of the outcome and level of the question. So that is what I wanted to submit, sir.
Beautiful. You have explained it very nicely. Explain Fourier's law. It will definitely go into remember level. Let me put it. Because he's rote learning it and explaining it. It is not even understand level. Though you are using the word explain, it is still at the remember level. So you have to have apply level questions. Apply quick sort on the following. Again, it is just an understand level question. You have to give again and again. Both of us are telling you, you have to. That is why examination reforms policy has been brought up by AICT. You are still following the old style of question paper, question design. Okay, just by using the word does not make it apply level at all. Write the efficiency analysis of a. This is for who's writing it? Neeraj Bisht. Write the efficiency analysis of a quick sort. No, this is again understand level only. Give the industry flavor. Let me put it another way. Industry flavor has to come. Industry situation has to come. Some data has to be given. Some figure has to be given. Then only it goes to the apply level.
Sir,
yeah.
One more thing I could analyze.
Yes.
That is, can I share?
Yes, please do.
Yeah. One more thing I have analyzed, that our friends are writing the course outcomes, but they are keeping the content in mind.
Yes, yes, yes. They're not keeping the
So,
industry.
yeah. So if you keep the content in your mind, then you will not come out from the theory.
Yes,
Try to
perfectly right.
think about the industrial situation, formulate the outcome, and then you think about the content and all that.
That is why right from yesterday, I started my first session, my first
Yes, sir,
outcome
yes,
was
sir.
establish the industry connect.
Yeah.
Unless you establish the industry connect, you will not be able to design or formulate industry level questions or apply level questions. That
Yeah,
is
so
my
it is not,
humble
yeah, it is,
request to all of you. Yes,
yeah, it is not simply extrapolation of content.
yes,
We
perfectly
have
right.
to think, yeah, we have to think it in bigger and broader way, from the world of work or real life situation point of view.
Yeah. Dr. Basanta Kumar, again, evaluate. This is also remember level question. Just by writing the word evaluate will not take it to evaluate level. Let me tell you again and again. Deepak Gupta, evaluate the effect of iron carbon equilibrium diagram with a neat sketch. No. Again, remember, understand level only. Why you want to have a neat sketch? You just say sketch one first of all. Any sketch in the final exam is not for testing the drawing skills. You can just say sketch, number one. Number two, evaluate the effect of the iron carbon diagram. This is just a understand level question. Where? In which situation? Is it in a Steel Authority of India? I would say, which situation it is? You have to give the industry situation, but just by giving this will not do. Otherwise, it is an understandable question only.
Can I give one example
Yes,
related to
please.
evaluate level, sir?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I've given so many examples. Yeah, please do.
Yeah. I can take the live example. Dear friends, in one city, there is a overhead water tank. We all are aware about the overhead water tank. Suppose it has collapsed after 20 years of its construction. And suppose your final year graduates have been given this task, why the tank has collapsed. Scattered information is available, incomplete information is available. Now they have to frame the situation, they have to see the situation from design point of view, from construction point of view, from quality assurance point of view, from use point of view. So they will be making many assumptions. At the same time, they will be carrying out many tests of say concrete and steel and all that. And on the basis of complete scientific and engineering analysis using the fundamentals of science and engineering, they are coming to the conclusion that these are the two causes of failure of overhead water tank before its life. That is at evaluation level. So suppose you are asking evaluation level question, these types of data are facts in which many of the data will be missing. So they will be making assumption. They will be using the theory of related courses which they have already learned. And on the basis of that, if they come out with the solution, actually that is evaluation level. Professor Joshua.
Yes. Professor Sony Parmar has written, determine the pre-order transversal. Again, you have not given the context. Let your question be long, doesn't matter, but let it be contextual with condition and criteria. Industry context, let it come. Then only the student will really appreciate why he's learning all these things. That's the basic issue. Then only he will be employed or she will be employable. Ranjana Singh has written, how can a T, I have told, please avoid 5 W's and H in your questions. Start with action verbs. You have to say convert a T flop. You can use the word convert. Convert a T flip-flop to be implemented by a JK flip-flop. Use the verbs, active verbs. But this is again in the understand level only. It is not. You have to give an industry situation. Let me put it again and again. Yeah. Any other question? It's almost, we are about to close. Any more questions? But still we'll take some questions. Doesn't matter. I hope you are clear how the questions should be at the apply level. I have given you enough examples. We have discussed so many things by now. Even the task which we are giving a format so that it is very clear to you how to do it. Okay, so please do that. If there are no more questions, maybe we can close. And let me thank all of you for patiently listening to these sessions. And it is a joy to work with AICT because the whole country is being represented. And this is a very, very important area because the question paper is de facto the curriculum in one way. So if, therefore, you have to take it seriously if you want to make them employable. This is my final statement. My final statement is already we are preparing the students for their livelihood. And let us prepare so accordingly, we have to prepare the questions. Accordingly, we have to prepare the outcomes as well. So thank you one and all. And I would like to close over here. Thank you, Professor Gupta, for the teamwork that we had together. And thank you, AICT, for giving us this platform to be part of the country's effort to bring people to employable level. Tomorrow, Professor Gupta will be taking on various other assessment tools, and there will be one more task. That means there will be on preparing rubrics to assess the psychomotor domain and affective domain outcomes. So thank you one and all once more. Colonel Venkat, thank you for being there and
Not at all, sir. Not at all, sir. It's a great honor. It's an absolute honor to be listening to today's session. And I hope people did understand, people appreciated the work because this is a unique activity which is being done.
Yes, yes, yes.
I have not seen these kind of workshops happening to the level wherein we are now focusing purely on making teachers aware, making teachers knowledgeable. You know, sir, there is one is called as a course, professional courses. This is neither a course, neither a webinar. It is somewhere in between, which we call it. That's why we call it a workshop.
That's right. That's right.
and all the faculty members who are connected, please be there tomorrow also. Please submit your questionnaires by today so that tomorrow we can discuss some few, not necessarily we'll discuss all.
Yes.
We'll discuss some few.
Yes.
It's for everybody to understand what is the right manner of writing a question based on the requirements. And then we will be completing this and be thanking Joshua sir and Gupta sir because, sir, your time, you're sparing your time and making yourself available continuously.
Thank you.
It's commendable, sir.
Thank you.
Joshua, sir.
That's why the Colonel Venkat sir, thank you so much. Because I am already telling them they have to unlearn certain wrong things and relearn certain new correct things. That's
Very
my
right.
humble request to all of them.
Very right, sir. Very right. We meet again tomorrow morning, 10:30,
That's
sir.
it. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir, and
Thank you,
regards to
thank you, sir.
everybody.
Okay, bye.
Jai Hind, sir.
Jai Hind, Jai Hind.